What's up, everyone? 大家好. Welcome back. In the past few weeks, I was involved in a very exciting engagement where we helped our client with their digital transformation process. The client's team has grown from roughly 10 people to more than 200 people in the past 2 years. As you can imagine, they faced many challenges, but in the meantime, they also had many opportunities for them to grow out and scale. I've certainly learned many things from this engagement, especially how we as a team to help the client tackle all those challenges, as well as identifying some of those opportunities for them to succeed in the future. I'm excited to share all this with you, so let's get started. So let's start with the problem that they're having. The team started with 10 people 2 years ago. And then after 2 years now, they were grown into 200 plus people in their sort of digital organization. They made a very successful beginning by release their first software product into market. And then they become very optimistic to expand the team. And nowadays they start to struggle with meeting their business goals and deadlines, and ultimately that might lead to losing trust from their executives, therefore dismissing the team. And that's when we got it onboarded and to help understand what are the problems and how do we fix them. So, to help our clients understand their problems as well as how to fix them and in what order, we've divided the engagement into 3 stages. The first stage being collection. So, during the collection stage, we've done 3 things. The first thing are conducting interviews with different personnel across the whole SDLC process in the client's team. That's including the leadership team of the whole organization, the product manager, the engineers, as well as the solution architects. So the purpose is to develop a comprehensive understanding of their SDLC process from all the different perspectives that gets involved in their delivery process. And then the second thing we've done is going to their document repository to review their sort of documentation for different areas of the delivery process. That's including the agile ceremony and processes, the technical documentation, as well as the business objectives and goals, to say if they have a consistent standard that defined in all different areas. And then based on the conversation we had from the interviews, so we can compare whether the team first of all have a standard, and then secondly whether the team is complying to those standards defined. And the last thing we've done is to physically involved in some of the key agile ceremonies that the client been running. So we're actually flying over to client's headquarters to sort of participating in those discussions. For example, the PI planning, which stands for Program Incremental Planning, that's a key terminology in the safe agile framework, as well as the scrums, the team scrums and retrospective meetings, to have a very close observation to say how they run those key meetings and identify whether they have actions taken after those meetings. So that concludes the 3 activities in the collection stage. So it comes to the second stage now. After we gather a lot of information from the collection stage, now we need to clean up, process, and assess all those information. So the first activity being clean up those information. And by that I mean we will need to go through all the collections we've done, get rid of all the redundant, irrelevant, and distracting information. And then after we have a cleaner version of information, we'll then move on to the analysis. So the challenge here is like we need to do it as a team collectively. So we've used a collaboration tool. In our case, we use a mural. We've dumped all the information we gathered as sticky notes on the mural board. So the team can have a kind of a Zoom meeting or Teams meeting to go through those 100 tickets and to start identify what are the most important ones we can work with for as a sort of a baseline for our recommendation. If I recall correctly, we've sort of consolidated those 100 sticky notes down to 4 main themes, and under each theme, we then came up with 4 sub items that goes back to each theme. And with all this key information extracted from the observation, we now can start to proceed with our assessment. So thinking this way, on the left hand side, we have this like 4 theme, and then on each theme we have like another 4 sub items. That's 16 problems we need to resolve. And then on the right hand side, we've identify some good examples from the industry that we feel that the client can reference to help resolve their problem. And then that's the stage we start to think about the recommendations. So far, we've gathered enough information and have done our current state assessment of the client's operation. And we now need to go into our third stage as well as the last stage. That's to help client identify the future stage and provide a roadmap to help client understand what are the key activities and the time frames to along the roadmap. So to do that, you will heavily rely on your team's expertise and knowledge to help client navigate through. But ultimately, no matter what recommendations and roadmaps you provide, you have to resolve all the key problems you identified from the last stage. Okay, in the next, I will go through the timeline to explain how things all fit together in 8 weeks of time. On high level, from week 1 to 3, that's the collection stage, and week 4 and 5 is the assessment stage, and eventually from week 6 to 8, that's the review and recommendation stage. And there are 3 milestones that we have to meet. The first milestone happened in week 5. That's when we need to present our first preliminary report. And then in week 6, we have to present our second version of preliminary report. And eventually in week 7, we've delivered our final report to the executive group. And we have the last week to wrap things up and hand over. I'm then gonna dive in a bit deeper into those specific activities. So from week 1 to 3, we scheduled all the client interviews, organized all the on-site traveling and meeting with the client's team. And then at the same time, we start to gather up all the observations and put into a kind of collaboration tool. And then starting from week 4, we've started to work on our first preliminary report, and in week 5, we've presented that to the client. So in week 6, in week 6, we start to release the report to the client's broader team, and that's where the most contention comes from. Especially there are people impacted by a team structure that we propose. So the title and the position they are currently holding might no longer available in the future. So we had to be very strategic in the way that we approached sort of the reporting sessions. And as you can imagine, we've gathered a lot of feedbacks, so we have to sort of reiterate through our preliminary report to make sure everyone's happy. After that's done, we presented our second version of a preliminary report to the client by end of week 6. And eventually, after some final feedbacks, we polished everything up, delivered our final report to the executive group, and then that left us 1 week of time to wrap things up and hand over. So that's the whole timeline. All right, that's all the work we've done, and I hope that give you some level of understanding in terms of effort involved in this delivery. In terms of the team size, we've got 6 people, including 1 engagement lead who takes the responsibility of all the critical decision making and final delivery. And then we have 3 senior resources. 2 seniors are working on a part-time basis and acting as subject matter experts. And then another one's working full-time and leading the day-to-day operation. And finally, we have 2 juniors, including myself, who's supporting the day-to-day operation and doing all the legwork. Apart from that, I would also want to touch on the observations and the recommendations on a high level, because I believe many organizations sharing the similar challenges during their digital transformation process. Though the details of those challenges would depend on the situation each team has. So I'll talk about 2 areas. The first one being the collaboration challenge, especially when your team growing really fast in a very short time, because that challenge will erode the confidence of your delivery team, that will ultimately hurt the morale of your entire team. To fix that, the first thing is you would like to come up with an effective operation model that pull people out of their silo to work together. And to do that, you have to follow a few principles. The first one, the operation model have to be established based on the business objective and the goals. That is, every part of the team should have a very clear understanding and aligned to the ultimate business objectives that they want to achieve. And second, the team members, especially the team leads, should hand-holding to take responsibility and held accountable for the delivery in the end, instead of like working in silos, especially when problems occurs, they finger pointing to each other and blame each other. And the third, when you trying to structure the engineering team, the team should be aligned to the business value streams or domains, instead of like constantly like switching them across like different teams based on their availability, because that will drastically increase their sort of cognitive like load, and they keep switching context. That will just add more time for them to absorb new information, and then they don't deliver things that they don't understand. So that's the operation model. And then move on, you also want to embrace the agile way of working, especially for those traditional business or organizations. That means you need faster iterations and faster testings of ideas before the issue grow into a much bigger problems. And what happens usually in a traditional business or waterfall model, if things just get thrown over the fence, and then you will end up asking for apple, but your team delivered a pear, because they don't talk to each other and they don't test the ideas at the early stage of the process. So that's how the things you can put forward to fix the collaboration issue. And then the second issue or area I want to touch on is the roles and the responsibilities. Again, when your team growing fast, I realize there are some people are overloaded with responsibilities, and some people are not contributing much value, and there are also people are not operating consistently, even though they have the similar title or position. So to do that, you have to review properly of your team to identify who are really or clearly contributing value to the delivery. So to the end, you want to focus on the delivery because you want to get things done. So first of all, you have to have a clear set of defined roles and responsibilities, and then you want to eliminate those redundant roles that who do not contribute much. And the last is to shifting more decision making to the delivery team who's running on the ground, can make timely decision based on the situation at the point in time. So with all that, you should have a very efficient delivery team to deliver things as the leadership expects or the business expects. So that's all the areas I want to touch on, and I hope you enjoy it.